Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Ask, Learn, Grow, the show where we sit down with the Reef team to answer questions, share updates and insights from the digital marketing industry. Joined with Melanie Williams today, one of the leadership team members here at Reef, and we're going to be talking about call to action buttons. Whenever you see conversations online about calls to action buttons, no doubt you'll come across at some point a joke or, in some cases, serious conversation about testing. Is it just about testing the colour of the button? Change the colour to red for an immediate 200% uplift or something along those lines. So, Mel, is that really what CTA button testing is all about?
Thanks, Scott. I have to admit that in my early days of optimization, I was hearing this little joke about testing colors of CTA buttons. And it really gave me, it caused me to write off that CTA testing is something quite superficial and really just something that you played with when you couldn't find anything else more serious to test. And that's really honestly how I viewed it for a while. But small and simple as it may seem, conversion experts have actually proven time and time again that sometimes it's those minor changes to the website which can sometimes have the most major impact on conversions, and CTA buttons are one of those. Yes, you can certainly play with button colors. You can make sure that they stand out from your background and catch your prospect's eyes. So green and orange are actually really good options. And you can have...
You've got an orange background or a green background?
Sorry?
Green and orange. What if you've got a green background or an orange background?
Oh. Yeah, look, it just comes down to what your background is and what color is going to stand out from it. You don't want it to get lost in the background so that people sort of glance over it. You want it to really stand out and catch their eyes. So if you have an orange background, maybe go with green. One important thing to remember, though, is make sure you have a lot of space around your button so that it sort of is separated from the rest of the copy and the text, and again stands out for your prospects. You can also have a lot of fun testing button shapes and sizes. These can all contribute to ensuring that your main call to action is really eye-catching and it stands out for your prospects. But you have to bear in mind that if your call to action copy is wrong, then these changes in themselves, they won't have too much of an impact.
Yeah, dead right. And what is good call to action copy? Like, where do you start with this? Can we shed any light on that?
Yeah, look, I'd love to have a formula where you could just say, do this, and the result will be a fabulous copy. But really, it all comes down to context of the button. What type of call to action button is it? And what are you trying to get your prospects to do? For example, we'll talk a lot below about making your call to action button copy different and specific to the action that you want your prospects to take. But in certain situations, say with an add to cart button, departing too far from what customers' expectations are can actually have a negative effect by causing some confusion. So I had a client once who did some bespoke products. They handmade them online, and rather than just saying add to cart, they went with make my product as their button copy. The client found that while they were having lots of traffic to their product pages, they were actually getting no one adding to cart. So we conducted an exit survey with the site visitors, just asking them why they weren't adding anything to cart and actually just leaving. And it came through that consumers were actually really confused by the call to action button copy. They're so used to adding things to their cart these days. They know what that means. They know what they're expected to do. And they still know that they have time to change their mind if they want to. However, the make my product copy implied that by clicking it, they were actually committing to a purchase when they were still unsure of the timing and of the shipping details. So in that situation, it actually had a negative impact. So we changed it back to the simple standard add to cart and saw an immediate uplift of 17%. But in many situations though, the call to action button copy that just dictates an action that you want a prospect to take isn't very effective. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. But if there was any type of formula that could be applied to the majority of CTA button copy situations, then it would be this formula that's provided by CXL, which is value plus relevance equals conversion. By value, it means that the prospect needs to have a motivation for clicking your button. And by relevance, it's what the prospect will receive when they click that button.
Yeah, I'd like the example that you gave with the add to cart button, just to pull out that bit, is the thing with commitment. So you want to, with certain call to action buttons, like you said, the user is very familiar with what they do, and they kind of expect it, sort of the law of familiarity. And by changing it to make my product, add to cart, very, very, very low commitment. Add to cart, I'm not actually signing up to anything, but it is the next step in the conversion journey. Make my product, not quite ready for that yet.
What does that mean? Yes.
It's asking too much too soon. So that makes complete sense to me, and a good test, and proven that it was in fact the case as well with the 17% uplift. Okay, cool. Perhaps have you got any examples that we might be able to look at for good call to action?
Yeah, a classic example will probably be the call to a button at the bottom of a form fill. Here you want a prospect to fill out a form, submit a form so that you can capture them as a lead. You've probably prepared a page with details on what they will receive when they fill out the form, what benefits it provides them. You optimize that form to make it simple and easy for them to complete. And then you add a button at the end that says submit form, which is pretty logical, right? But if we apply the principle from CXL that the value plus relevance equals conversion, the problem with having submit form as your call to action is that it tells the prospect what to do and not what they're going to get. It's missing that major step by reinforcing the value that they're going to receive by completing that action. So yes, you'll probably get a few people actually submitting the form and pressing the submit form button. But how many more people might you get by tweaking that submit form copy to something like get my free security assessment now?
Yeah. Who wants to submit a form? Not many people want to submit.
Not many people.
But get my free security assessment. Yeah, that's what I want. I don't want to submit a form, but I do want that assessment.
Absolutely. I have a really great example here from Unbounce, which also reinforces this.
Okay, cool. So we're looking at petamberalert.com and what looks like a really good CTA button. And so, yeah, do you want to talk us through it now?
Yeah, look, this is a great example of a CTA button that is absolutely spot on. The button could have been a little bit more generic and could have said start your search, which kind of would have been okay. But instead, it's actually highly relevant and very valuable. It's find your lost pet now. So you're getting that value and you're getting that relevance coming through super, super clearly to that specific situation. And remembering the key is to convey what your prospect will be getting and making that copy very relevant to their specific scenario. So in most instances, you would avoid things that are telling prospects what to do, things such as order or send, submit or download. Instead, you try to have a specific first person action words like get my free copy or reserve my seat.
It speaks to the desired end result. And in this particular example, it's quite an emotional one as well. One thing I'd probably like to test on that, just kind of looking at it on face value, is the button is a similar sort of size to the navigation and it's the same sort of color. So I'd probably like to run the test if this was my site on assuming obviously the data backs it up, to make the button sort of larger and stand out more, and just see if that gets more people taking that step, so it's more prominent and visual on the page. So because it's the same color as the navigation, it's the same color as the and the same sort of size. So I think if we could make that bigger and more prominent and contrasting, so that there's a rule, isn't there? So if you can, it's like the is it called the 2-year-old test or something like that? So if you get a child and tell them to point at the screen at the most important thing, they'll pick out, the main call to action that you want people to take. Or if you stand 10 paces back from the website, that it should be quite clear what it is. So I'd probably look at doing that for this. But other than that, the call to action copy and the text is really good.
It's fabulous, yeah. And look, chances are you're not going to find the perfect CTA copy and the perfect color and the perfect placement right off the bat. So that's where you need to make sure that you're doing A/B testing. It's essential for finding out just what copy is going to be best and what coloring is going to be best and placement for your particular websites. Yeah, absolutely right, Scott.
Okay, great. Thanks for covering all that, Mel. Just before we close up the call, any final thoughts, anything else to add?
Look, I think just remember that it may seem like such a minor thing in the scale of optimization of your website to be fiddling with button copy. But just remember, it's actually the very last chance that you've got to convince a consumer to take the action that you want them to take. So in actual fact, it can have a really major change to conversion if you get it right.
Oh, and that wraps up today's call. So if you've got any questions about this topic or any digital marketing related question at all, send them in and we're always happy to help. If you'd like to put a burning question or problem to the team, please send those in too, and we'll see what we can do. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to be notified of when the next video is available. Apart from that, thanks all for watching and enjoy the rest of your day.